Hi, everybody. This is Nick Totaro, Professor of Information Technologies and Computer Science at Lakeland Community College. I'm often asked, why does phishing still work? That's where you get a email, and oftentimes that email includes a link, and when you click on that link, it does something bad, maybe steals credentials, maybe open up malware, maybe opens up a pipeline from the bad actors to your organization. And I get that question, why does phishing work? And then you start even diving into some of the really weird ones, or the famous Nigerian prince scam. How do they work? Or not so much how they work, but more why do they work? I think most of us think, and we almost get into a condescending approach of, who would believe a Nigerian prince is going to reach out to me? Who is going to think that the bank doesn't have my best interest, but I can easily determine a fraudulent email? And it's a question of numbers, especially in the Nigerian prince or some other things. It's a question of numbers. If you have a scammer and they're using email to penetrate into your system, and they're doing some kind of phishing attack, chances are they've compromised a whole bunch of other people's email servers. So now they can literally send out hundreds of thousands of emails cheap, free. If they have access to an email server and they're able to, what they call, govern the amount of emails that leave that server over a given time, they can literally send out hundreds of thousands of emails. So if you take the Nigerian scammer, let's use some big numbers here. Let's say they send out 100,000 emails, scams. Now, there's a good chance that your email engine will filter out a lot of those. Let's start by talking some big numbers here. Let's say hypothetically a scammer, a phisher, sends out 100,000 emails, right? It may take them a couple hours. They're using zombies throughout the net. They're bouncing off of relays and stuff like that, but they send out 100,000 emails. Now, you as a cybersecurity professional, you should instruct your end users to filter those things out. Was it Gmail and some of the other email servers, or the email server you have at your facility, do a very good job filtering out those really nasty ones. There's certain things, and we'll take a look at it in these videos, that they can filter out very, very quickly. But again, if the user is the weakest link in our cybersecurity chain and the user doesn't turn on those filtering features, they're going to get those emails, right? So what happens next? So let's say we start with 100,000 emails and 90,000 of them get filtered. There's still 10,000 emails that have not been filtered. There's still 10,000 individuals that haven't filtered their emails, and now they're going to click. Again, most people are not going to get, contacted by the Nigerian prince. But let's say hypothetically, out of those 10,000 emails, two people respond, or even one person responds. How much did it cost the scammer? A couple minutes. They have this stuff automated, a couple minutes of sending these spams. They send out 100,000, 90,000 get filtered, 10,000 don't get filtered. Those 10,000, two people, one person responds to that claim. They say, okay, I'll open up the account. I trust you. Here's a couple $100 to show my trust, and I'll make whatever. A couple minutes of work, couple thousand emails sent, one person responds. The Nigerian prince now has a couple $100 at their disposal. Now, if you amplify that over and over and over, this could be a fairly good income. Now, let's take a look at an email spam that I got, a phishing spam I got, and let's break it down and see where as social engineering comes into play here. So let me go up to my screen. All right, I'm going to eventually delete this, right? But there's a lot going on here. And again, if I'm not careful and I start opening things up, bad things are going to happen. So I need to be a little bit careful. But let's really break this down. This is a classic phishing expedition. They're sending me a link, they're asking me to open it. And again, most people are well aware of this, but we have to train ourselves. And if you're not training your end users to be careful of these things, they're going to get caught into that phishing net. So let's take a look at this. First of all, this is fairly sophisticated. I've been getting these emails, this particular style of email. It's been about 4 or 5 weeks. I get about 2 or 3 of these per day. And they're very consistent. They're all, quote, coming from Wells Fargo, which tells me something. It tells me somewhere along the lines, Wells Fargo probably got compromised. I'm not criticizing Wells Fargo. They're doing their best, but somewhere along the line, it's very common that these big organizations do get some kind of compromise associated with it. The reason I say that is great organization. I've been with them for years, but they know, the bad actors know that I have some kind of relationship associated with Wells Fargo. Okay. So immediately I see Wells Fargo's bank. Now, Wells Fargo probably deals with millions of customers, but I see Wells Fargo's bank and my brain goes, oh, there might be something wrong with my account. So, in the social engineering world, they've established, the bad actors established a relationship with me indirectly because they know my account or my name is somehow associated with Wells Fargo. Even if it wasn't associated with Wells Fargo, right? There's a good chance there are people that don't know what accounts they have. That's a different story for a different time. But we all open up the newspaper, or we've seen stories where unused accounts. People open up accounts all the time. So who's to say I didn't open up a Wells Fargo 10, 15 years ago and I just forgot about it? Happens all the time. So the bad actors are well aware of, this is working on my mind. It's not working on my greed yet, right? It's working on, there might be money or my account, some fear factor may be in jeopardy here, right? But as I begin to look at this is very well done. Even something like down in here, I'm going to just see if I can make it just a little bit bigger. Yeah. Down in here, this particular scammer is using, what is it? They're using Google Drive. Well, Google is a very reputable company. I guarantee you they're using Google Drive. Again, not bad mouthing Google, not bad mouthing these platforms, but these bad actors know how to get around. Who's to say of all the billions of people who are using Google Drive, there's not bad actors? So I look at this and I say, well, wait a second. This appears to me to almost have Google's stamp of approval here. They're using Google Drive. This has to be safe. So even though it's a very simple phishing, it has Wells Fargo. I may or may not have a relationship with it. I better go check on that. They're using Google. That's a safe platform. So they're building a lot of things there. And if I'm not cautious, or your end user is not cautious and they're worried or whatever, they see the stamp of Google, even though it's not a stamp of approval, they're seeing Google Drive. Probably in the past, they've opened up legitimate files. Maybe somebody attached a legitimate file to an email. We all do that. That's another common task that we all do. We all send attachments. So everything here seems to be on the up and up, on that face value. Now, as cybersecurity professionals, how do we really scan this? How do we really look at it? Well, you start looking at certain things, right? Obviously, you look at email addresses and stuff like that, and we'll get to that. You will notice that something that jumped out at me very, very quickly was the PDF file is very undescriptive. It says the PDF name is called Recovery Steps Guiding You Through Account Verification, SUP ID, and then this number here. This number here, I'm not going to touch things. This number here, that's a randomly generated number, right? So they've created all these PDF files and they randomly generated these numbers. If it's a legitimate attachment from a legitimate email, I'm usually not going to see these random numbers involved here. Again, this is all being done through automation too. This is not an individual creating these PDF files. They're creating, or they're allowing different programs to create these menace to society type applications. So they may be dealing with, again, hundreds of thousands of these different types of unique PDF files. So they have this random generated number here. The other thing is, and be careful, I do start looking at email addresses and things like that. I'm not going to, I could, but I'm not going to bury down into these other email addresses, but I will tell you, think common sense here. If this is a security, if this was, and it's not, if this was a legitimate security concern by Wells Fargo, they're going to contact me directly. And we'll talk about some of the steps that they would probably do, but they're not going to do a carbon copy to hundreds of users. If I was to expand upon this, I'm probably going to see about 20 or 30 users there. Wells Fargo is not going to send a carbon copy to 20 or 30 different users. So even though this is somewhat clean, the Fisher just did a bad job. Right. The moment I see multiple users in there, that should be a red flag. Again, if it's a legitimately sensitive information, it's going to come to me directly. Things are going to be unique. Now, what banking institutions are well known for is they're not going to send emails. Your banking institutions are not going to send emails with some kind of security threat. They're not going to call you with some kind of security threat. What they may do is, yes, they may send you an email and say, "Hi, Nick, this is your broker XYZ, and I know that broker XYZ. Please call me at my office number." Again, we would have to be careful. We're double checking the office numbers and stuff like that. But I would probably just pick up the phone, not use the phone number that would be in my email. And I have a contact at Wells Fargo that I would contact. I would never just grab the information from the email and start calling or replying to this, right? These banking institutions know. They know, even if they were to call you on the phone, they may say, call back at our main office number, or they're going to do some kind of procedure to make sure that you are talking to the people. They're not going to just blindly send you emails and say, "Okay, start making changes." And then lo and behold, we have these open. Now, I do report these. I'm one of those people that I do delete these. I kept this for a reason for this video. I do delete these, but I actually report them back to Gmail, or if I'm using Outlook, if they come through Outlook, I'll report them back through Outlook. It does reduce them, but it doesn't eliminate them. Let's take a look at my spam folder. This was not in my spam folder. These emails, for some reason, are getting past the filters. Like I said, sometimes filters pick them up, sometimes they don't. These are getting past the filters, so it's actually into my inbox. Let's go into my my spam folder. Yes, I routinely clean out my spam folder, and there's a bunch of things here that aren't spam, but they're not of importance to me. The JD Power, they're asking me a survey on a vehicle and stuff like that. But I'm going to be careful. I'm not going to open these up. This spam right here, Lisa Smith. That's another one of those spams where somebody in your life, especially as you get older like me, I'm in my 60s, I've probably met thousands of people in my life. There's a good chance that I went to school with a Lisa or a Smith, or especially you'll notice, again, very, very subtle here, very subtle. It's not a male's name there. It is Lisa Smith. Now, where that is subtle and where that is interesting is we still routinely, women, not trying to be sexist here, women routinely change their name when they get married, right? Now, my wife did not, and that's fine, but there's a good chance that I've known a half dozen Lisas in my life. Maybe it's Lisa from high school. I'll say maybe it's Lisa B from high school, And I thought she got married a few years ago, and maybe her husband's a Smith. So that might be an interesting email. That might be Lisa reaching out to me saying, "Hi Nick, how you doing?" And I'm going to open it. I'm going to be very careful and not touch anything. And it says, "Oh, Lisa has pictures of me." Now this one's kind of it's playing onto the likeness social engineering, where it's saying, "Hey, you probably forgot we went to high school together. I happened to find pictures of us together. Why don't you open these things up?" No, I'm not going to do that. Now, some of these can get aggressive, and obviously they all cross the line, but they can get aggressive. I've gotten emails where they say, "Hi, this is Lisa Smith, and I have very compromising pictures of the two of us." Well, that begins to get on the fear. What's the definition of compromise? Who is this individual? Most of us are, no, there's no compromising pictures of me out there or anything like that. But you can see there's a fluctuation of what they're trying to get you. One is, hey, this is an old acquaintance of yours. Maybe he has some really nice pictures from high school. Two, I have some very inappropriate pictures of you. And if you don't, maybe they're AI generated or something silly. If you don't, I'm going to publish those. So, I'm going to report. Why is this message spam? Okay, it appears. So this is a Google. This was filtered by Google. I'm not going to say report, not a spam. And then every so often, I just go in there and I delete them forever. I delete my spams forever because I just don't want them in my email. So. A little bit of a longer email. I'm sorry, video talking about some of the social engineering associated with phishing, right? It works because it's inexpensive. It works because it usually targets things that we're familiar with. I'm not going to respond to the Nigerian prince. I've never met a Nigerian prince in my life. Why would the Nigerian prince? But there's people that might say, well, maybe I went to whatever. So the Nigerian prince still works, but not as much as it used to. The other ones where you saw that they kind of checked a bunch of boxes associated with me. A bank account to a bank that I've done business with, having some kind of Google stamp in there where it says, "Oh, this is legitimate." Seeing my name, seeing kind of an official report. We begin to analyze those things. Now, all of this, not all, but a vast majority of this can be reduced. These phishing attacks can be reduced with just training your users, right? Explaining to them about, look at everything. Never open up something from somebody you don't know. Banks are not going to use email for you to make changes and something like that. Yes, if there was a compromise there, the banks and these other institutions, there are ways they will adjust accordingly. So, a lot of little stuff in phishing, right? We as cybersecurity professionals cannot just say delete. We have to begin to investigate why these things work. Phishing works. Big numbers, 100,000 emails going out. Things get filtered. Things get more filtered. Two people respond. So the Nigerian prince makes a couple $100. Hundreds of thousands of emails going out with these PDF files or whatever, and you click on it. Works because it's simple and it's a low cost vector of attack. That being said, let's go and learn something.